At 28, I was on professional film sets in Munich, living what I thought was my dream. Except I wasn't directing, I wasn't writing, I wasn't even operating a camera. I was making coffee, carrying equipment, and walking the assistant director's dog. This isn't a success story. It's about the 10 years I wasted telling myself I was too good for film school when I was actually just terrified of being evaluated. And if your son is between 15 and 25, there's a good chance he's making the exact same mistake right now, just with different excuses. My name is Max, and I run Lighthouse Mentors, where I help young men stop hiding from their potential. What I'm about to share isn't comfortable for me, but I'm telling you this story because I see the same pattern everywhere. Brilliant young men sabotaging themselves with sophisticated excuses for why they can't commit to one path. They tell themselves they're being strategic, they're finding a better way, they're too smart for the system. But what they're really doing is what I did for 15 years, avoiding any situation where their actual ability might be tested. So let me tell you about the most expensive mistake of my life. Not expensive in money, though it cost me that too. Expensive in time and potential, in the life I could have been living while I was busy avoiding it. When I was 28, I rediscovered cinema. I started watching Bergman, Tarkovsky, all the European masters. Something awakened in me. I started writing a screenplay, spent 4 months in Montpellier, France, going to the public library. I was going to be a filmmaker. So I moved back to Munich, back to my parents' house, specifically to be near the HFF, Munich's prestigious film school. I went to their open day, met the students, told them I wanted to learn the craft. They loved the idea of having someone eager to help on their sets. And I did help for about 10 sets, making coffee, setting up lights, walking dogs, running errands, always watching from the periphery, never actually making anything. Here's where the story gets interesting. The obvious next step would have been to apply to the film school. 5-year program, structured learning, access to equipment, mentorship from established filmmakers. A clear path to becoming what I claimed I wanted to be. But I didn't apply. Not once, not even to see if I'd get in. Instead, I told myself a story. Film school was too rigid, too conventional. Real filmmakers, the mavericks, the artists, they learned by doing. They didn't need degrees. They found their own way. Kubrick didn't go to film school. Tarantino didn't go to film school. Why should I? This story felt true. It felt noble even. I was taking the harder path, the authentic path. Everyone else was following the herd into institutional thinking. Not me. I was different, special, above it all. Here's what was actually happening. And parents, pay attention because your son might be telling himself the exact same lie right now. I wasn't a maverick. I was terrified. Terrified of being in a structured environment where my work would be graded, where my script would be workshopped in front of everyone, where my films would be screened and critiqued, where I'd be directly compared to other students, where there would be no hiding. See, when you're learning on film sets, you can always tell yourself you're not really trying it. You're just observing, you're gathering knowledge, you're waiting for the right moment. There's no evaluation, no grades, no direct comparison, no risk of finding out you're average. The film students intimidated me, not because they were mean, most were friendly, but I felt like I didn't belong. They had this easy confidence, this shared language. When they talked about films, they weren't trying to prove anything, they just were filmmakers. I was desperately trying to become one while pretending I already was one. The truth is, I've always struggled to connect with people. Maybe it's mild autism, maybe it's ADHD, I don't know, I've never been diagnosed. But I've always been what you might call a lone wolf. Not by choice, but by fear. And film school would have meant 5 years surrounded by people who made me feel inferior. So I chose isolation and called it independence. I spent the next several years starting and stopping various film projects, writing scripts I never finished, planning shoots that never happened, always preparing, never executing. Each year that passed, the dream got hazier, the excuses got more elaborate, and the reality got more pathetic. A 30-year-old, then a 31, then a 32-year-old, still living at home periodically, still talking about becoming a filmmaker, still avoiding any real commitment to the path. Parents, here's what you need to understand. This pattern, what I call the Maverick's delusion, is everywhere in young men today. Your son says he doesn't need college because he'll learn to code online. But has he completed a single course? He says traditional jobs are dead, he'll be an entrepreneur. But has he made a single sale? He says school is outdated, he'll self-educate. But what has he actually mastered? These aren't strategies, they're sophisticated avoidance mechanisms. And the tragedy is, the smarter the kid, the better he is at rationalizing why this avoidance is actually wisdom. I was brilliant at this. I could explain for hours why film school was a scam, why the industry was changing, why my approach was revolutionary. What I couldn't do was make a single film. The real tell is this: a genuine maverick takes calculated risks toward a specific goal. Someone who's just scared avoids any situation where their actual ability might be tested. They choose paths with no structure, no valuation, no accountability. Then they wonder why they never improve. Here's what would have actually helped me. Someone calling me out, not cruelly, but clearly. Someone saying, "Max, you're not a rebel, you're hiding. And every month you spend preparing is a month you're not becoming." But nobody said that, because I was so good at my story, even I believed it. The solution isn't to force your son into traditional paths. That's not what I'm saying. The solution is to help him distinguish between strategic rebellion and sophisticated cowardice. Ask him these questions. Is your alternative path harder or easier than the traditional one? Does it have clear milestones and deadlines, or is it endlessly flexible? Are you being evaluated by anyone other than yourself? In 2 years, will you have something concrete to show, or just more plans? If he can't answer these, he's not forging a new path. He's avoiding the existing ones. At 33, I finally faced my fears. Not through film school, that ship had sailed, but through forcing myself to do the thing that terrified me most: talking to strangers, building real connections, stopping the elaborate dance of avoidance. Your son doesn't need to waste 15 years learning what I learned, but he does need someone who understands the difference between real courage and elaborate cowardice. Someone who's been in paralysis and found the way out. I'm building a free community for exactly this, for young men who are stuck in sophisticated avoidance patterns, and for parents who want to understand what's really happening with their sons. The link is in the description. Join us. Because the cost of waiting, the cost I paid, is far too high for your son to pay too.